Thank you, Mohammed, for the invitation. Thank you for the organizers here. My name is Junaid Ahmed. As you all know, I'm running for Congress from the Illinois 8th Congressional District. A very brief background, just a few seconds about myself. I'm son of Indian immigrants and immigrant myself. Story is very typical to many of you on the call here, where dad worked hard, saw him working hard, honored that sacrifice. We wanted to, I started out my community college education at the City College of Chicago, transferred to DePaul eventually, and earned an MBA from University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Today, I'm a proud father of four. I own a tech consulting firm, and I've been a community organizer and activist in the area, fighting for the rights, basic human rights, and healthcare to be treated as a human right, and environment protection and all that. So our topic at hand today about Venezuela, Greenland, and how that kind of ties back to us. So I'll quickly jump onto that. Right, the Trump administration's approach to Venezuela has been reckless and counterproductive. It is supporting democracy. Instead of supporting democracy, what he's doing is it is relying on sanctions, military posturing, economic pressure, so that he could take over their oil. I mean, basically, it's just dictatorship. That kind of interventionism destabilizes the region. It fuels humanitarian crises and undermines international law. The broader impact is that it damages U.S. credibility across Latin America. What it is to say now that Putin wants to do something, go to Ukraine, pick up someone, China wants to do something. How can we now go and tell them that is not right? And that the future is at stake here, and it is dangerous. We cannot claim to support self-determination while attempting to dictate outcomes through coercion, right? When it comes to Greenland, those comments are deeply troubling and fundamentally anti-democratic, right? I mean, Greenland is not a commodity. Really, he's talking as if he's going to go pick up X from the store, right? I mean, it's a home to people with the right for self-determination, and threatening economic and political coercion against a self-governing territory and a NATO ally. From all of that, it's a NATO ally, and that's undermining international law and weakens our alliances. Our foreign policy should be rooted in respect, diplomacy, cooperation, and imperial rhetoric, right? And it's not should not be based on imperial rhetoric, and that's what this president is doing. And when U.S. normalizes the idea that powerful countries can simply take what they want, I mean, think about it. It makes the world more dangerous, and it erodes the very norms that keep us safe. And Minnesota, I mean, it's a cold-blooded murder that we saw in Minnesota. And the federal government is using fear as a political weapon. And we saw it here, right here in Illinois. Large-scale ICE operations have turned like everyday life in a like a minefield for immigration families. Yeah, there was one family. I was at O'Hare Airport when their dad was being deported. It was just like how families are torn apart. It's just heartbreaking. It makes your heart you cry, and that's what this president is doing. People are afraid to go to work. They're afraid to send their kids to school or seek medical care. That is not making anybody safer. This is about civil rights and human dignity. Immigration enforcement should not look like a military occupation, and unfortunately, with snipers everywhere it's just dangerous. And I have shown, if you could recall during Trump 1.0, parents were being separated from children, and we had ICE detention center here in McHenry County. Uh, we were out there fighting relentlessly until we successfully shut down, as a citizen, not as a candidate, we successfully shut down that ICE detention center. And now I support abolishing ICE and ending these mass enforcement tactics, holding federal agencies accountable, protecting the right to protest. I mean, think about it. I mean, basic right to protest is being challenged today that we never thought would happen in this country. And pursuing humane immigration reform that keeps families together and respects due process. basic things. Unfortunately, this should have never been topics that we needed to talk about. And that's where we are here right now. And what he's doing today with his foreign policy and authoritarianism at home, you know, when we are normalizing coercion, collective punishment, disregard for human rights. I mean, when they are doing this abroad, it becomes easier to justify repression at home. And that's what he is using to his advantage at this point. And that's something that we would have to be on the streets, constantly take on that stance. And whether it's the militarization, of immigration enforcement or threats against free speech, the same authoritarian mindset is at work. Democracy doesn't stop at our borders. We need to protect it here in our country. We have to practice it everywhere. And as a member of Congress, I would just push for diplomacy. I would push for multilateral engagement and humanitarian assistance. Regime change, politics, make people's lives worse and weaken global stability. So those are basic things that this country needs to come back to. The basic democratic principles this country was founded on, and we need someone in Congress who is willing to be that relentless voice, who has shown that they can be the fighter on the streets in the last few decades, and that's the path that I have shown. And that's the fight I will take, the voice of the 8th congressional district from the streets of Schaumburg, from the streets of Elgin to the halls of Congress. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to have any discussion, any other questions that we may have. Hopefully I stayed within time.